may be seated in the presence of the Almighty. We come today giving honor to the Spirit of Christ and to all of you who have come to share in this gospel ministry. We want to extend to Pastor Edwards and Sister Mary Virginia Edwards. I haven't forgotten Mary Virginia. On this occasion, a great big thank you for the good work, the great work that they have certainly done. Now, this is not all flowery words and none of that. This is the truth. That they are indeed a great people who believe in sharing and living what they preach and teach. They remind me, please don't throw nothing up here. Let me finish the story before, because it doesn't sound like it's going right there. But it reminds me of a story that I read not so long ago about a young man who was sitting in the kitchen, sulking in the doldrums of self-pity, that he felt like he had nothing for which to live for. His father said to him, sit down, son. And so his father got two pans, and he put some water in all three pans, and he brought the water to a boiling point. Then his father took a potato and put it in the boiling water. Then he got an egg and he placed it in another pan in the boiling water. And then he got a coffee bean and he placed it in the third pot of water. And his father called his son to the stove and said, now son, what do you see there? His son said, I don't see nothing. And his father shared with him that when I put this potato in this boiling water of adversity, he said it was hard. But now look at it. It is soft and weak. He said, when I put the egg in that boiling water, the inner part of the egg was fluid. But now it is hard boiled. But son, when I put this coffee bean in the third pot of adversity, what do you see? He said, I see coffee. So the father said, that's it, son. The potato and the egg allow adversity to change them. But the coffee bean changes adversity. And because of that, you have a wonderful cup of coffee. It's all in how you handle your adversities. These two young people, Pastor Edwards and Sister Edwards, they don't allow adversities to change them. They change their adversities. And after many years of pastoring, I've come to understand, Pastor Edwards, many things, but one thing I do know is my ABCs. And I'm not talking about the alphabet ABCs. I'm talking about the ABCs of life. And the ABCs of life is that A, adversity, B, bills, C, character. You see, you can't have character unless you go through something. Amen. And so we come today to celebrate this wonderful pastor and this wonderful first lady here at Committed to the Word. I was so glad that Pastor said, coming into the door, preach what you want. And I began immediately to erase all of that other stuff. And I'm so glad about that. And if I had to just say a few words about your topic, Jeremiah 3:15, and the scripture, I will give you pastors according to my own heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. I would say that what you have seen him do, and what you have watched him do, and what you have heard him say, he is a man according to God's own heart. Can I just be honest with you? Everybody who stands behind the pulpit are pastors, and their pastors have been blessed. Their churches have been blessed, but God makes a distinction here when he said, according to my heart. And they are far few in between. And you have one here according to God's heart. Now that's the sermon for 3:15. Thank God I can move on. I want to read to you from the same prophet Jeremiah, which has already been read for your hearing, from chapter 29, verses 4 through 7. Jeremiah 29, verses 4 through 7. And it reads, "Thus said the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, unto all who are carried away captives, whom I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem unto Babylon. Build yourself houses, and dwell in them, and plant gardens, and eat the fruit of them. Take to yourself wives, and beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear sons and daughters, that ye may be increased there and not diminish. And seek the peace of the city, to which I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto the Lord for it, for in its peace shall you have peace." Wow. I want to talk this morning just for a little while from the subject, in the meantime. In the meantime, because I believe that we live in a day when men have become jittery and very shaky and very fearful. I notice that the hearts of men are failing them because of the unknown. Church, we are living in an age of speculation and an age of uncertainty. Governments are crumbling. Empires don't last always. Financial institutions are going bankrupt. And it seems to me like there is trouble around every corner. And because of all of the troubles and uncertainties, people today have given up on hope. Some people have abandoned the possibility of ever achieving their dreams for themselves or for their children. But church, what happens to a people when they lose hope? When a people lose hope, church, depression is usually the next experience. They wallow in the pool of their own failures. They drown themselves in alcohol and substance abuse. And oftentimes people will operate in a world where they will strike out against you or against each other, or rebel against the notion that life is just not fair. Come on now, come on. The public record indicates that without hope, the hopeless have no future, and social disorder is the result. And so today we see all around us the impact of hopelessness on a whole community of people. Church, in hundreds of cities across this nation, the seeds of hopelessness have been planted, and now they're sprouting up into rage known as politicians. These well-known politicians who make the 6 o'clock news and the 7 o'clock news every night, they have sown seeds of doubt and hatred throughout the land. Crime is escalating. It's at an all-time high. Home invasion, murders, aggravated assaults are increasing at an alarming rate. And because we are living in a hopeless society, no matter where you look, hopelessness seems to abound. And although promises have been made from Washington, D.C. and other places, yet hope has not yet showed up. And when we watch the evening newscasts, hopelessness seems to be the main topic. When we listen to our neighbors, hopelessness. Sooner or later, the voice of hopelessness always enters the conversation. There are just too many individuals that are filled with frustration, despair, and fear about tomorrow. People are filled with pain. People are filled with sorrow. People are filled with loneliness. And for the most part, honesty compels me to share with you that lawyers and doctors and politicians and educators and philosophies and even theologians seem to offer very little hope for tomorrow. And as a matter of fact, almost everyone you speak with seems to have some kind of hopeless situation, either in their personal life or on their job. Church, many young black men have accepted the notion that they will be dead or in jail before they reach the age of 30. And with that notion accepted as their truth, young blacks could care less about going to jail. They don't care nothing about the death penalty because of hopelessness. They think there is nothing else available. So when a person is robbed of hope, desperate people will ignore laws. They will ignore rules, and they will ignore social order. That is not an excuse for lawlessness, but I just offer an explanation as a starting point for conversation and corrective action to restore broken dreams and shattered lives. And all I'm simply saying is the desperate and the destitute needs renewed hope.
That's right. That's right.
And the church must continue to tell the hopeless society that times are going to be difficult and trouble surrounds us. But we must tell them there is still hope. We must tell them that there is a bright side somewhere. We must tell that little boy that has been a resident of detention center most of his life that there is still hope. We must tell the impoverished teenage girl who have no hope for ever being anything but a welfare mom that there is hope. We must tell the crackhead and the addict that despite of what the world says, there is a man named Jesus who can touch you and make you whole, that there is still hope. This faith represents the faith of Job, who said, all the days of my appointed time will I wait for my change to come. This faith represents the confidence of the three Hebrew boys who said, our God is able to deliver us. This faith represents the persuasion of Paul, who declared, nothing shall separate me from the love of God. This faith is Jesus, who takes our hurt and our pain and our doubts about the dark yesterdays and make them into bright tomorrows. There is a bright side somewhere. Jeremiah 29:4 says, thus said the Lord of hosts, God of Israel, unto all who are carried away captives, whom I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build yourself houses.
All right.
Dwell in them. Plant yourself some gardens. And then eat the fruit of them. Take to yourself wives. Beget sons and daughters. and take wives for your sons, and then give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear sons and daughters, that ye may be increased and not diminished. And then after you have done all that, seek the peace of the city, to which I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto the Lord for it, for in it shall ye have peace. In the meantime, because in this text, the people of Israel have just suffered a very devastating defeat at the hands of Babylon. The well-educated and the well-to-do have been carried away as captives unto this wretched city. And King Nebuchadnezzar has left the old and the poor behind to dwell in the land of Israel. There were politicians and preachers in that day who were prophesying an optimistic forecast that their captivity would soon come to an end. Some were preaching a timeline when all of the calamities would end. And the people of Israel believed them that they would be returning home soon and very soon. But these preachers didn't know, because nobody knows what God knows. These preachers didn't know if their captivity was going to last 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. Nobody knew. All of that, what they were saying, in essence, was to, well, in 2 years you're going to be free. Until then, trust in God. But there was this preacher, this prophet named Hananiah, who predicted that within the space of 2 years, Israel would be restored and the yoke of Babylon would be broken from the neck of all nations. The prophet named Hananiah, he was really trying to preach a message of hope. He was trying to preach a message and to encourage people, a message that said anytime, any day, you're going to be free. And things are going to be better. What Hananiah was preaching was a positive message. It was a message of hope. But it was a false message, because it gave people false hope. What he was preaching was not true. So when the prophet Jeremiah heard that the prophet Hananiah was preaching this any day, any time message, that you were going to be released in 2 years, Jeremiah confronted Hananiah. And he told the people that what Hananiah has been saying is not really true. The prophet Jeremiah told the people that Babylon's yoke would not be broken immediately, and the people would best benefit themselves by preparing for an extended stay in Babylon. So in this text, Jeremiah delivers to Israel God's prescription as to how to deal with your serious situation and your painful predicaments. The prescription was, in the meantime. The first thing Jeremiah wanted them to do is to face the reality that their captivity had happened to them. There were the people of God. These were the people of God. These were the people of God. Chosen ones who were in captivity. And now they have been deported from their homeland, and they languish in the land of Babylon. For years, Jeremiah had warned them to turn from their wicked ways and to turn back to God. But they ignored Jeremiah, believing that God would not destroy his own people no matter what they did. They view God as a God of love, while ignoring the fact that God is also a God of justice. And this is something that you and I should always remember, that God is slow to anger but he does have a righteous anger.
Yes, yes.
Don't you dare think that just because retribution does not come immediately, that it's not coming at all. God still holds us accountable for our personal sins, our individual sins, and our national sins. But the record is, your sins will find you out. The record also said that God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. We may think we're getting by, but we won't get away. Israel's chickens have come home to roost. And although they've been warned again and again and again about their sins and disobedience, they just couldn't believe that God would do this to them.